I would like to continue by introducing our first keynote speaker. And Mr. Chang is joining us from South Korea. And some of you know and have probably experienced previously how large efforts are put in place in South Korea. And I think there's a number of different aspects we can learn from South Korea through the fact that we as a country have a great possibility to launch national initiatives. I think it's specifically interesting for us to understand how one been working in South Korea with drug development on a national level. So please help me welcome Mr. Chang.
All right. So I talk. All right. Good morning. God morgen. There are en stor ära för mig att ha blivit inbjuden som talare till detta forum. All right. That's all I can take in Swedish. And if you did not understand what I said, it is great honor for me to be invited here as a speaker. You know, I've been for conference, many different type, many different contents in different part of the world. And actually, I never been any conference starting with a happy forum like this. This was very interesting one. So as I've been introduced, I'm working as a president of Osong Medical Cluster and New Drug Development Center. And this is a part of the medical cluster at Osong, and I will explain more detail later on. So this is the topic I want to cover in my today. So drug development in my perspective, and then what's happening in the industry, both in Korea and in global, and then government initiatives as I've been asked to, and then of course my center and some of my suggestions. To make my point, I put a brief of my career. So I finished my undergraduate and then went to America for my PhD. And then after I finished my PhD, I worked for National Lab for 10 years and then decided that this is time for me to move on to pharmaceutical industry. So starting from DuPont Merck and DuPont and Bristol Myers Squibb. And then somewhere and somehow I decided I'm going to go back to Korea. So I headed a company called Green Cross as a head of R&D. Green Cross is the first biotech company in Korea, more than 45 years old. Then briefly worked for KHIDI, which is Korean Health Industry Development Institution. And then from last year, I work for this center. Early stage of my career, I worked for HIV project or AIDS project, and I had a big smile at that time. I don't know these days. And that is the structure of HIV protease at the center is sitting drug candidate. And that compound, by many reasons, could not make a drug. But it was beautiful science. It gave a very nice aspect, and I learned a lot of things about drug development. And then later on, we worked and eventually come out with a drug called Sustiva. That is NNRTI, which means non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitor. And as far as I know, this is the only drug, even today, that prescribes as a once-a-day drug. You all know that taking a pill once a day or twice a day and 3 times a day, the compliance of the patient is drastically different, especially between twice a day to 3 times a day. Twice a day, you take just once in the morning and then go home and take another one. 3 times a day, you have to take a pill in front of your peer and your colleagues, and that doesn't work, right? So this is once a drug. The story is this. DuPont and Merck formed a joint venture because Merck liked a drug candidate called DUP753, and then it transferred to Merck and became a Merck's the drug candidate called MK954, and eventually became a drug called COSA. That's for hypertense one, and makes lots of money. Anyway, and then later on the story comes as a Sustiva. And during the course of Sustiva, these two big guys did not get along and then eventually divorced. And this is why. The Sustiva, this is chemical structure. I bet only Merck chemist can come out with this kind of complicated one. Triple bond with tricyclics and so on. But anyway, that compound is called L743726, which is a generic number of a Merck compound. It's not MK something something. It's L something something, which means laboratory of something. Okay? Unless someone put specific effort to develop that compound, then that compound will sit on someone's shelf, either university or even in industry. Somehow that compound get some attention from DuPont Merck, and it came to DuPont Merck, and DMP266, which is DuPont Merck's the clinical candidates, and become this nice pill. So what happened with that pill? This is what happens. So now it is sold more than $1 billion. But the story I want to actually share is this one. After 20-some years, finally, we are saying that the epidemics of AIDS can end. This was the title, or this is cover page of last year's economics. So, it may sound a bold statement, but really, in humble mind, all of us who has drug discovery and development, our ultimate goal should be sitting in that one, not the dollar sign, this one. More than 5 million lives been saved. Just as a number, it is more than half of the Swedish population. You think about it. So, yes, a lot of things happens outside, I know, but unless we keep our focus onto that one, 5 million people's lives because of our efforts. Not just mine, of course, our efforts. So I think we should not forget about that one. But back to real life. What happens in the industry? We all know that the pharmaceutical industry, it is improving. Actually, the sales are increasing, and sales are increasing faster than most of other industry. According to this prediction, by year 2020, $1.3 US trillion sales will happen. Another one, the emerging market in the future will definitely come from Far East. China and India. Japan, of course, is already a big market, but it is growing. And the other one, important one, is a technology. Especially biotechnology will bring us bigger chunk. Somewhere in the sentence it says fusion technology, but in pharmaceutical industry, we have been fused for years and years and years, actually. More than 30 years of my career, we've been talking about multidisciplinary whatever. So fusion is not new to us, but it is important, actually. We all know that these big compounds trouble because of patent and so on. But that is part of a pharmaceutical industry. Another one. Basically, the number of new drugs coming out is basically flat. And if someone remember that this specific article written in Nature Reviews Drug Discovery a couple of years ago, basically the person who wrote that one saying, this is just for chemical drug. Starting from 1950, when I was born, every year the average is 25 drugs. We put more money, still there. In that slide, somewhere in the middle, there is a big bump. You know why that happens? At that time, and some of you may still remember, the industry, pharmaceutical industry, went to US FDA and asked them, we already applied this many compounds. Please review our compounds. And they said, we are short of hand. We will give you money. We will pay the fees, hire a person, and review our compound. And that's what they did. So whatever was waiting, they reviewed. And that's why around that middle of 90, more compounds come out. And then went back basically flat, 25 compounds a year. Biologics, maybe it will increase more. We all know that it will take 10 years to make a drug. So, what should happen? And what is happening? It was a fragmented one. Now it is becoming integrated. The delivery was more invasive, which is becoming less invasive. And then the chairperson also mentioned this morning that instead of a provider-centric, it is now patient-centric, which is good. Centralized in hospital becoming decentralized, and more personalized medicines are coming along. What about in Korea? I guess that's why I'm here. Especially, what about in the Korean government? In 1983, the government passed a law called Genetic Engineering Promotion Law. So basically, I was saying that we want to increase the biotechnology. And 2 years later, they formed a national lab called Korean Research Institute of Bioscience and Biotechnology, called KRIB, K-R-I-B-B. Currently, they hire close to 1,000 people, including temporary person. They published, actually they registered more than 1,300 patents and published 5,000 papers all these years. And in '94, they put the 10-year plan called Biotech 2000. And then that was ended in 2005. And starting from 2006, they put second 10-year plan. And last year was a half through of the second 10-year plan. And we reviewed what happens in the last 5 years and adjusted it for next 5 years. I was one of the board members for those review. And many other things. the government actually putting in. This one is a National Fusion Technology, which I mentioned. Another one is some commissioner that the National Science Technology Commission has. So it's a lot of intentional, a lot of a focused efforts are putting by central government, and that is also not only sitting in the capital, but it actually cross down to regional area, as where I actually currently working on. What about new drugs? Does Korea ever develop discover the new drugs? So far, there are 18 new drugs has been discovered and developed. In 1999, a gastric cancer drug called the Sunpla was discovered. And then discovered, what I mean is it's approved by Korean FDA. And the last week, 2 weeks ago, the leukemia drug called Supect was approved by KFDA, and that is basically super Gleevec, as everybody calls it. So that's been there. And this is table of that 18 drugs. The top one is the one I just mentioned, Supla, and as it goes down, here is the drug called Factive by LG Life Science, and this is the same LG that makes the TVs and those guys, okay? And that Factive is the one that approved by US FDA, that's antibiotic, but the US FDA, and it was a big celebration of the first one that approved by US FDA. Then there is the CJs, and so on and so forth. And the last one I mentioned is this leukemia one. Not written in there, in 1983, the company I worked, Green Cross, they come out with a hepatitis B vaccine called Hepavax. KFDA do not put that as a new drug because it was the third one in the world. And as a vaccine as it is, and this was virus-like a particle, VLP, and then the sequence may be similar or same, but the process is different. The way that the mix is different, but they still did not call it as a new drug. So the GCC did not went in there, but for some time, the Hepavax was the best-selling hepatitis B vaccine in the world through WHO and PAHO, which is the medical commissioner in South America. So the point I'm basically making is that Korea do have infrastructure of new drug discovery and development. Although the market size itself is not big, as a population is not heavy. In 2009, basically 160 compound is in various stage of a drug discovery. And this is small compared with the multinational big company. But compared with the number of researchers working on this project, which is much, much smaller than a single company, this is quite impressive numbers and impressive efforts. 3 different the government department working and helping on this one. In the middle is the Ministry of Education and Science, mainly putting money into the basic science, but also a later stage of it. There on the left is the Ministry of Health, obviously for clinical trials. And the last one is the Ministry of Knowledge Economy. I don't know why they call it knowledge economy, but basically the function of that ministry is industry, Department of Industry. They changed the name in a fancy way. So looking at what they are doing in different stage of drug discovery, the Department of Science is basically working on here. Health for the clinical trials. These are also clinical trials, but also they are putting more money into the infrastructure development. So 3 major departments are working and then they realized that they should work together. So there are consensus effort working together. There are minor support, such as Department of Agriculture, a little bit here and there, but that's 3 is major effort coming. Last month, Korean government made a very bold statement saying by year 2020, they want to become 7th largest power in developing drugs. We will be after Sweden, so not scared too much. To me, it is indeed a bold statement. But in some way, and as I look at the government or the country, there was something truth in it. I mentioned briefly about my career. So I went to State for my PhD degree in 1978, come back to Korea in 2005. So I lived close to 30 years in the United States, came back. But during the course, I look at the country, when they really want to put the consensus and a focused effort, they achieve it, such as auto industries, shipbuildings, ITs, they are making it. So now they are saying, okay, we want to make on this part. I want to help them. It's not just the Korean government. The World View reviewed Korea and mentioned about it. So the important thing is then how you're going to do this. So there are 4 initiatives the government is putting on. First one is medical cluster, the K-Bio where I'm working, and then DGMIF. The second one is National Onco Venture, which is oncology one. And third one is Korea Drug Development Fund, KDDF. And the last one is Korea National Enterprise for Clinical Trials called CONNECT. I know that forums are, and then people around here is more interested in clinical trials or clinical research. So I'm working at the top of the list, so it's a little bit away, but I went into those guys and then borrowed what they are happening. So I will explain all of those. So first one is medical cluster. The government is building 2 medical clusters in Korea. One, a place called Osong, and the other one is called Daegu. So Osong is here, Daegu is in the bottom. What do we want to do? You want to build R&D for translational research, and then exploratory lead compound to drug candidates. Remember the story I was sharing about Sostiva, L74, whatever the fancy number? That was the lead compound. Unless someone puts it and make it as DMP-266, that's going to sit in someone's shelf and then collecting dust. So I think this specific effort is indeed necessary to make a drug out of it. So what are we going to do? We want to have an extensive global research environment for biomedical field. Here, we want to make new drugs and then also medical device. That too is the main goal we are trying to put on. So this is the way to get to that one. In year 2005, the government established a National Medical Industry Investment. I say industry. It's not just basic science. Yes, we want to put and make it, this industry happens. So after that, there was a planning teams, committees, meetings, and so on and so forth. And in year 2009, they selected 2 sites and then defined it. Late last year, there was groundbreaking. So this is Osong site, and this is a Daegu side. This will be the drug discovery. The other one is medical device, animal labs, and pilot plants. And this is the groundbreaking. And somewhere in the middle of the center, there is a prime minister who reports directly to president. So the presence of a prime minister on that groundbreaking means that the big or emphasis of a government that we want to do it. Okay. I don't know why the fireworks should be there for groundbreaking. I thought it was digging, but it was fireworks too. And what happens? They start digging. This was the flat, and I don't know whether you can see it. They digged deeper, 7 meters, or from top. This was the flat, and even in the snow, they digging, and this one. The reason I also want to share this funny or fancy picture is Korea. I mentioned the automobiles and the shipbuilding. Another industry they are good at is construction. But this construction is for as a pharmaceutical industry, that is a very important thing. They are making good construction, but their timeline is quite fast. So instead of usually taking 3 years to build a factory, they take 2 years, which is very important in pharmaceutical industry. If you think about this, the company do not want to build a factory until they are sure that their candidates will make a drug. So you started phase 3, okay, you're thinking about it, all right, shall we start digging and digging? And it will take 3 years to build it. And you do not want to start building your factory after the whole thing is done. Okay, you got the approval, everything ready. Okay, now I have to make a drug. I have to start digging. Does not work. Okay, so somewhere along the line you have to make a decision. All right, we will make a factory. But if you save 1 year, if you go 1 more year of clinical trials before you have to make a decision, all right, let's start digging. That's a very important one. Think about it. I'm not working as a construction worker, but if you are interested in the saving 1 year, come back and yell to me. I will somehow help you guys. That's very important. Okay, so this is a kind of a complicated model of this medical cluster. So in the middle is the cluster. Outside is the university, research centers, investing institutions, and hospital, CROs, even the funding agent, and so on. But with this difficult, complicated one, the bottom is this. There are 3 core centers: drug development, medical device, and clinical trials. So 2 of them, drug development and medical device, and the support centers, animal lab, and the pilot scale, the manufacturing scale centers. So 4 centers are start digging. The third one, clinical trials, it's hospital. Hospital is not easy to recruit. They're thinking about patient and so on. So what we are thinking is this is a more research-oriented hospital, which we are recruiting, and then we'll see. That'll come. Whoever made this slide, I better go back and yell him. But this is Korea. And in the middle of Korea, there is a city, small city called the Osong. This is Sejong, but Osong is just above here. That's where I'm working on. One thing good about this one is that this is 30 years commitment. So we all know that drug discovery takes long. 30 years. And Osong, which is here, is located, as I said, in the middle of the country, and there is a bullet train station. We call KTX. I took X2000 yesterday from Stockholm to here. It took 3 hours. From Seoul to Osong, it is 45 minutes. It runs as fast as 300 kilometers per hour. I don't know what X2000 was. It didn't give the number, but I took a train from Arlanda Airport to the Central Station. It runs as fast as 205 kilometers per hour. So not too bad. Anyway, it runs about 300 kilometers, so 45 minutes from capital to our station. From our station to our center is just 5 minutes driving. So it's there. So it is currently working on. They have an international airport not far away from us. Currently it is not busy. I will have to make them busy as our center is getting more and more international collaboration. And there are several highways passing by. So every part of the country we can get into here in 2 hours. And this is the land around here and then showing. So this is the land, quite big land, and this is the cluster I'm talking about. And I'm sorry, it is all written in Korean, at least in this part. But as I said, this is the medical cluster, and this is a big land bio valley, they call. So this is the cluster, and this fancy box is a national organization I will show you. But the outside is the manufacturing facility. And the other part is the second one they are trying to run, and this is a business center. So this is national facility is this one here. 6 national organizations moved into this area end of 2010, 2,500 people. All these 6 organizations were located in Seoul, but they planned it around this area and built a building. So all of those guys moved in at this time, and about 1 month before they moved in, the train station I was mentioning opened. So they all planned it and so on. Okay. And these are the buildings, the 6 buildings that I mentioned. Our center is located about here, 1 block down here. 2008, there was a Bio Korea. It's the equivalent of Bio USA every year. It's much smaller scale, obviously. But in exactly same spot where our centers are constructing, 2008 there was this conference. Centerpiece of the conference was this beautiful flower DNA or flower double helix. These are the venues. Even in the lane, there was a conference going on. And you see the construction that I was talking about, fast construction, the apartment construction. That's where I live now. And so that was the year 2008. And early last year, I went out and took a picture. See that the flower cone was still staying there. It's all dried out, but still there. And the back here, there's a sign saying that this is the land confirmed for that medical cluster. Also, these buildings I mentioned about this national organization are in that building. And then apartments and so on and so forth. So these are the one I've been showing you. The architect gave us garden. And this is side view. And this is front view. So this center by the NDDC is a 7th floor with a 20,000 square meter. And the building will be completed next year. And by year 2017, we're going to hire 200 people. Of course, it will increase gradually. That is regular employee. And then including temporary, maybe there'll be 500 or something. So mention two clusters. One at Osong, which is more oriented toward the bio and BT-oriented medical devices. And the other one at Daegu is chemical drugs and then IT-oriented medical device. I personally do not know what the means of a BT-oriented and IT-oriented medical device. But for us, biologics will be main focus, although we will increase in different areas. The second initiatives is this national Onco venture. This is a 5-year project with $240 million. And as a test case, it's just 5 years. What this venture is basically run as a virtual company. And obviously for oncology compound, they want to bring in early stage anti-cancer compound, develop it using CROs and CMOs. And eventually we'll do the clinical trials too. This venture is physically located at the National Cancer Center, which is part of a hospital. So that's why they want to build not only preclinical but clinical trials onto it. The compound that they want to bring in could be from university, biotech companies, national laboratories, or domestic or global companies. So, and then go into this venture and then eventually push out to industry. This venture is funded by Ministry of Health. Until preclinical trials, it will be funded by public money. So if you have, or if your friends has, a nice oncology compound and want to be developed it, okay, let me know. I will try to connect with them. As I mentioned, the compound can come from not only domestically, but from outside. If it is sitting on the shelf, it is just chemical compound, chemical pollution. If it's developed it, it'll become a drug. That's why we need it. The third one is a Korean Drug Development Fund. This is basically funding agent. Oh, I'm sorry. Before that, this one, the person, the Onco venture, the person who leads this Onco venture is Dr. Incheol Kim, who used to be a president of LG Life Science, the company I mentioned about effective. So he's the one who used to learn, who knows how to make a drug. And this KDDF, they will have a $1 billion for 10 years, and their mission is to develop 10 global products. And this runs like an investment fund, like a fund. And they want to establish both academic, government, and industry collaboration, and all other fancy statement as a mission statement. And this KDDF, unlike others, will support basic science, preclinicals, and clinical investment, all of this. And then not only these guys will support here, and they bring it outside here. The person runs this one is Dr. Dong-ho Kim, who is a medical doctor as trained, and he's a CEO, and they have many CEOs, including CMC, but so C is their term. But they also have external counsel. So this funding agent will run by this small number of group, but also will have this project selection committee and then external counsel committee. I'm one of the counselor, but we'll learn of this one. And then in different fields, different therapeutic areas, and different stage of the compounds. The last one is this one, Korean National Enterprise for Clinical Trials, CONNECT, starting from 2007. And by 2008, they had 3 regional trial, the clinical trial centers. For clarity, I don't mean that before 2008 there were no clinical trial centers. There were hospitals, there were clinical centers. But starting 2008, these 3 centers were dedicated for clinical trials. And by now they have 15 of those things. So this Connect, going through clinical trials using RTC, and then also they learn Human Resource Academy to training, and then also to bring the new technology in. So Pfizer look at this and they saw the benefit or merit of it, so they jump in quick, and then they are collaborating with Connect for PK/PD modelings and other educational programs. So they have by now 15, 8 in Seoul and 7 in other regions of the country. And as I mentioned, they have RCTC, Human Research Academies, and this clinical trials, new technology. So as I mentioned, Pfizer is one of the company come in Korea, and then GSK and Merck are, and then also Quintile came to Korea and then actively working together with a different way and different part of the researches. Other global companies, I think basically all of them already came into Korea, but most of them basically working on marketing strategies or marketing. But these are the guys who came in, and I think they are taking very nice works on it, which I clearly invite of you guys. So what happens with this kind of effort? The 3 organizations are very new, starting from last year, start digging and so on. But these are starting from 2007. So CONNECT, in 2009, Seoul was number 4th as a number of clinical trials in one city. After Houston, after New York, and after Boston, Seoul was the number 4th. In the year 2010, Seoul was number 2 after Berlin, Germany. But in 2005, Seoul was number 77th. So you see the our, in a sense, urgencies, when you bring the urgencies and then focus the effort, with things do happen here. I'm talking about just one city, not as a country. As a whole country, still USA is far, far, far more. Second is, I believe, is Germany, which is less than half of what happened in USA. In Asia, Seoul is obviously most active. This is 2008. So this multinational clinical trials and then domestic trials here. Second is Taipei, Taiwan. But interesting one is this one here, Tokyo, Japan. They are busy for just their own one. So it's a local one is busy, but not in multinational ones. And unlike Seoul or other ones. I believe in last year, finally, even in Seoul, the both multinational and the local is very close to each other. So it is indeed moving quite along well. So all those 4 initiatives in one slide, this is what it is. The CONNECT, the bottom one, I was starting with either from preclinic to all the way to end of clinical trials. KDDF, Korean Fund, start way beginning from basic science until the end. And the National Onco Ventures confined in oncology, but selecting a compound to predict clinical and then until at least phase 2A. Clinic. The one I'm leading, National Scale Translation Research, NDDC, is the one that we really want to put our finger in the cold and we really want to make it. So that's what I'm working on it. So I want to go back to my center a little bit because that's what I'm currently working on. So the mission is here. Starting from this end, from hit L74, whatever the number, until this one here, the candidates, and then later on working together with other initiatives or other places. As I mentioned, we will have a 20,000, I hope 20,000, but we'll have 200 employees. We'll work on antibody as we are more dedicated to the biologics. So antibodies, biologics, cell therapies, and vaccine and biobetters. Later on, obviously we want to work on natural products and the chemical compound too. Not trying to bore you too much, but biologics means that you need to develop cell lines, cell cultures, and purify it, and so on and so forth, with all these boxes and so on. And one example of scientific terms is glycosylation for antibody. It is quite important. Asparagine 297 at FC domain, and different type of and the different number of sugars, and how you sweeten the protein, it will be quite important, not only just for efficacy, and this is telling different sugar binding one binds in different manner. So the oligosaccharide, obviously the solubility of proteins was structures, stabilities, and then the half-life and so on is different. And these are the examples of the biologics based on the glycosylation. But what's important on the industrial part is even in process level, for what type of fermentation you want to take is dependent on those things. So you really have to develop the process based on it. I'm keep joking about L74, whatever the number. From there to that pill, we really indeed need to put effort into it. So I talked a little bit later part of drug discovery, which is the in these days called translational research. But basic science, by all means, is important. Without the clear understanding of basic science, we cannot make it. I almost biblically keep telling to my guy, science-based drug discovery is the key issue. Of course, later on, you have to have a market-oriented drug development should follow. But if we ignore the first part, we'll be in deep trouble later on. So the government initiatives I mentioned, I focused in the later stage of it, but especially the Department of Education and Science, they put a lot of efforts into the basic science, which I keep encouraging them to continue it. So this is a function of our center. We need to evaluate what the compound coming in. We need to optimize those ones with the process development. Meanwhile, we do need joint research, and I highlighted it. We are looking into international joint research or joint efforts. And one of the examples could be global collaboration of R&Ds, and then exchange and the training programs. Novartis came to Korea, and then with one of the universities, they are having this training program. So they are sending 1 week every year. I think this year now 5th year. Every year they are sending upper managers to teach, to actually participate and teach in this program. And it makes a lot of sense out of it. As they see, as I keep saying, Far East, the potential of Far East, they're seeing it. Pfizer obviously doing it, and so on. So I'm definitely using our center, trying to this kind of a program. And the other one I want to mention before I end my talk is this. The medical cluster that I'm currently building on, we are currently building on, this is, in a sense, a planned medical cluster. It is different from the one that grew in organic manner. So in the United States, Triangle Research Center, okay, those areas, Boston, San Diego. Yes, regional government helped a little bit, but it happened by the need of the participant or whoever. Here, government saying, or the public saying, we want to build this one. So in case of Osong, it is basically big land will be a bio, whatever bio it is, manufacturings, and then national regulators, CDCs, that's 6 of them is KFDA, CDC, Center for Disease Control, NIH, KIDI, I mentioned, and 6 of them. So they want to focus on that area here. Yes. Could be different from the one that grown by organic manner. But either way, it will be quite important. And this morning I hear around this area that some kind of effort in this going on. And this forum is a really good one. I'm trying to think about it, how we can implement this kind of forum into our region. But it is, and then another one I'm very impressed is trying to not only stay inside, but trying to go out and then get the international collaboration. So that's where I will end, and you can yell me, or you can send an email back there, and then I will try to answer if there are anything I can do. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Quite impressive. I think we have some time and room for questions. And I think there's a couple of microphones, and just raise your hand and we're sure we can get the microphone to you. Maybe I can get started with what you mentioned in one of the first slides, the fact that you need to engage a number of different ministries on a government level in order to make this happen. Do you see that there's an effort to combine different ministries' activities, or is this, how is this set up? Is there an effort to provide a possibility to have a...
I think that is quite important, and that was part of our agony as us. I came from industry more, and then trying to help the public. I cannot combine 3 ministries and then knock out the other 2 ministries away. That I cannot do it, by all means. So the second example, the National Onco Venture, that is supported by just 1 ministry. So that's easy. The last one, probably by same way. But the first one, this medical cluster, and then also this KDDF is by 3 different ministries. So in the cluster, there are 4 centers. The first center, the drug discovery, is supported by Ministry of Basic Science, and the medical industry is supported by Ministry of Industry or something, medical device. The last 2, animal lab and pilot plant, is supported by Ministry of Public Health. So it's really mess. Meanwhile, the KDDF, the fund, 3 different ministries, same ministry, they share same amount of money and just give it to them. Okay, now here is money, you do it. So that's easy. For us, 3 different ministries want to run this center and that and so on. So what they end up is within 1 ministry, they have what's called the group over coordination. So from that coordination, the money still comes from 3 different ministries, but that coordination, so we report to this coordination, so they kind of synchronize what they can do about it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I know we have a struggle here in Sweden to make the industries work together, so it's important for us to understand how you do it. One aspect that we've been considering is, of course, the fact that we need to have clinical collaboration ongoing, and I think we have some experiences, at least here in this region, that life science industry is sometimes easy to move across the globe. And sometimes we experience that the connection with the clinical research part and the fact that the infrastructure needs to be in place at hospitals is a way to keep the life science industry to stay in one region. Have you been thinking about that in your development?
If I interpret his question, is it easy to talk with a medical doctor by scientist? Similar. It's always difficult. And the language is different. Though it's with the same term, the medical doctor is saying about this way, and then scientists saying same thing. It's come out with different. So it's always difficult. True. So from my experience during industry, it is easy to involve medical doctors as early as possible, if they want it. Okay. I don't know whether it will work in Sweden, but in Korea it works. You have a hot liquid drink early on. I'm not a liquid drinker, so I'm not good at it. But early on, they go out and drink coffee or drink, and then it's in a personal level. So that's actually I found that's one of the easiest way. Once you agree between scientists or between scientists and then clinical trials or medical doctors and something like that. So that you have to build on community. When I worked for DuPont Merck and then DuPont, in our working group there were medical doctor. He was a working group member. He's a medical doctor as a training, and he was head of infectious disease at the Wilmington Hospital, but he was also actively working as a working member. So he goes to conference together and so on and so forth. So that's, I think, one of the good way that I found easy. But it's not, you have to face it. We, to two different worlds lived way away, quite different. Now we are trying to come into here. And I don't think there is a simple, easy way to do it. But at least, as I was joking, we realize the difficulty and either approach by personal level, or at least we realize there is difference. And we share it. Okay, it is different. And let's face it somehow. I don't know whether it was an answer.
No, it is a tricky topic. It's before I hand over, I'm not sure if there's any question out there, but I have one last one, and that relates to your national fund. Your national fund for research, the 1 billion fund.
What is the national fund?
Your national fund for the KDDF.
Yes.
Yes. Is that also open for international projects, or will it only be
yes.
South Korean projects?
That definitely is an international project. Okay. So what they are looking into it is they want to have a matching fund not only coming from domestically from international level, and since they are funding agent, they are looking for a project to develop it. Okay, so unlike the on-core venture, that if a researcher or organization has a good, promising compound, come to them, and then they will take that compound and they will develop it. But KDDF, it is just a funding agent. So a person coming with a project, they not only have to have good project, but also a good system to convince them to fund them. Okay, so the system also should come together somehow. And then of course the committee will review the process of the system and then the progress of the system too. But it is definitely open for a project not only in domestic way, but the international way too. Yeah.
So let's see if I have any more questions out here in the audience. I can move with this.
Thank you very much. I'm Eva Lindgren, Novartis, Sweden. I'm very impressed by your national strategy and how to implement and have a focused implementation and the results of it. And I was wondering, and what we can see from the national funding and implementation, I was wondering, is there also a national strategy for the implementation of all these, for example, these new drugs, and how the uptake of those are in Korea? So
there is a strategy for implementation, and the later part, how, that part I missed. So question is do they have, does the government has strategy to implement and how to uptake, to put these new innovations, both on biotech and on drugs, and uptake and use in the society? Is there a strategy for that as well, not just the development of it? Wow, my boss is asking. You sure you're going to implement this one? Okay. Let me put this one here, this way. Okay. There's obviously there is an intention either by us or by central government or local government, whoever. Okay. The practical way is at the government level, can they have expertise to evaluate the innovation? And then do they have a method to put those innovation into the local or into the everyday life? Obviously, the expertise will be either at the center or at the funding agent or whoever. Okay, that's why they've been selected. Okay, will they be swing away from original mission and then miss the innovation or miss the implementation of that innovation to the outside? Okay, I think the simple answer is I don't know. Okay, I don't know whether the central government even not only have it or they are thinking about it. I personally don't know. Okay, which is not a good answer. I have to admit, but what I think it will happen is these centers or these initiatives will be publicized as much as possible, so that the commercial entities will utilize it even without us letting know that. Now, of course, this is easy. For us, okay, I make a new drug, next day it will come out on the newspaper. Even if it is candidates, the newspaper will come out. All the companies will look at it. So it's easy for them. Whether the funding agent, that might be more difficult. Yeah. So we have to rely on, in some sense, rely on the public and then whoever those commercial entities for that part. I think that will be the way.
I have a question. My name is Christine Wenras. I'm a doctor and a scientist from the Sahlgrenska University Hospital. Didn't you forget to build a big hospital in Ulsan? Where are your patients?
Good question, and I'm agonizing for that. Okay. Currently, we realized this. I'm quite sure Sweden is the same, but I will pretend Sweden is not. In Korea, there is competition between hospitals. I said Sweden may not. Okay, so the big area that they flattened out and building these centers, there is not heavy populated area. That's why the site has been chosen. And I cannot knock out whole city and build these things. Okay, so big hospital will look at it and say, okay, I can build one, but here is the patient. And then, of course, whenever they look at it, the next door, the big hospital is saying, okay, see, you want to build a big one, and then you want to take my patient away from them. Okay, so that's a problem. So that's why we are focusing on this research-oriented, clinical-oriented hospital. And while we're looking into that one, there are technical difficulties too. In a sense that, okay, here is phase 1 we're going to try, which is quite important. And sometimes it is more dangerous than phase 2 or phase 3, because phase 0, we don't know what's going to happen. In phase 2, we're looking at the efficacy. In phase 1, we kind of know that now the safety is there. Okay, but in phase 2. So in phase 1, we don't know. So I have this small clinic, and if something happens, big hospital, I have emergencies or other things. In the clinic, we don't have it. Okay, so in that case, this clinical center has to be located close to big hospital so that I can send the emergency hospital within something. So it's a good point, and we're working on it.
I guess we also quite impressed by the fact that Seoul is such a high-ranked site or city for clinical research. What do you think is there any other aspect related to the population in Seoul? Are they more willing to participate in clinical research compared to other parts of South Korea or even other parts of the world?
One of the reasons that Seoul is went up high is it is a heavily populated city, 20 million people, about half of you guys in one city. The other one, it's not just Seoul, but in Korea, they have the people has different habit. They go to hospital instead of a local clinic. Let me repeat. Even if you catch cold, they go to hospital instead of local clinic. All right? That sounds stupid, but for the clinical terms, clinical trials term, this is wonderful because you just need 3 hospitals to collect 500 patients. Okay? And if people's habit is going to local small clinic or local office, then to collect 500 people, you need 100 clinic center or clinic, the doctor's office to, so each doctor office has 5 people, then you need 100. You go to hospital, you can collect 100 people or 200 people, so you need 2 or 3 hospitals. Okay? So it's easy to collect it, but also you don't need your statistics, or you don't need 500 different nurses cooking in this way or that way, while your analysis is all different. So this is a wonderful way. So that's why it's easier in Korea. And then one maybe I shouldn't say, but I will say. one difficulty, and again, I'm joking, Sweden may not be, is it's more difficult for Korean to go for clinical trials for children. Parents are really, I cannot send my kids. My kids are trial. So that part we have a little more difficulty compared with the other. But compliance of the patients is really good because we used to listen to doctors very politely and so, okay, 2 pills a day, okay, 2 pills a day, 3 pills a day in front of my colleagues, okay, I will take it. They do. So that's good one. So that's why it is improving. The other one, also, the multinational companies are coming, not only for this kind of clinical trials, but all other, the industrial aspect, is Korea is a really good platform going out to other part of Korea. We respect IP much more religiously compared with the big country next to us. I mentioned, but anyway, compared with the other side on the ocean, we are much more willing to explore the new things. Japan is a beautiful country. I like them, but they are very settled, and then they do not want any more adventure. We are much more open to the adventure. So those things happen.
Okay. So by that, I know you're spending some time here in Sweden, at least a couple of days, and I think for most of us it was a bit like music hearing about the national initiatives that are in place. So we would like to share a small gift, some music for you, for your ears. And I think we will close by giving you a big hand for your presentation and good ideas. Thank you.